I posted a poll on my channel asking what figure I should order next, and you guys absolutely obliterated that Scarlet Spider button. So here we are taking a look at the Ben Reilly Mafex today. Let's get into it. Starting off with the box, Mafex is keeping it nice and simple as always. We have a window on the front so we can get a look at all the accessories that come with this guy, which of course we'll talk about a little bit later on. Moving on to the side, once again, nice, simple, and clean. We have the amazing Spider-Man logo right next to this funny little pose from Ben. Let's move to the back side, and as you can see, we get a closer look at all the different head sculpts and a nice little group of poses with a little bit of a look at the different webbing options that we're going to be getting as well. As you can see, he does have a cloth hood that he can put up over his head. I'm incredibly excited for that feature. That's going to give us a lot of room to play around with. And then we get our last look on the opposite side with Ben once again, this time doing a spraying pose. We have the Scarlet Spider Mafex number 186 accompanied by the spider logo and his face up top there. Real quick too, on top of the box we have the amazing Spider-Man logo there as well. Now let's go ahead and pop this bad boy open. On the inside fold, we do get a little skyscraper, which is going to tie in nicely with this backdrop that you'll see here in just a second. It's honestly really cool and complements the figure and packaging very, very well. Here's a bit of a close-up on that. It's painted in a retro 90s cartoon vibe and lines almost the entire inside of the box. It's little pieces of detail like this that give me kind of a warm, nostalgic feeling when opening up a figure like this. Let's go ahead and set that guy aside. Once again, we're going to do our little snap and get everything out of the plastic. Boom, there he is. This is everything that is included except for the webbing in the stand. I didn't include the webbing yet because it comes in this nice little case, and there's a chunk of options with the webbing, so it's definitely something that I want to get into towards the end of the video. And kind of the same with the stand. I believe that it's the same one that we always get, so I might brush over that briefly at the end. Now, there's a lot to talk about here, so in order to get a more in-depth look, let's go ahead and switch to a top-down view. Here's everything that comes with Ben Reilly. Go ahead and take it all in. We got a huge selection of hands, our 2 extra head sculpts, and an extra set of feet, which does come with a set of built-in magnets. We got a lot of accessories to talk about, but for now I want to get into the figure, so let's move all these to the side and get some first impressions. First things first, the build quality on this is absolutely astonishing, which is no surprise because it is Mafex. The figure is nice and heavy, and it looks just as good as it did in the packaging. Though simple, the paint job is amazing. No splotches and no excess paint buildups. Fantastic. Of course, we got the cloth hoodie, which is surprisingly very stretchy. I thought it was going to be more like a cotton material, but this is definitely like a spandexy feeling cloth, which is perfect in my opinion. The hood can come up over his head, and they put a wire around the inside of it so that it doesn't just hang over his face, which is a fantastic touch. I was really happy to see that. The spider on his hoodie is also executed very, very nicely with no jagged line, and you can't feel it if you rub your fingers over it, so it seems to be dyed onto me, which was the absolute best approach to tackle something like this. Also, if we lift the shirt, you can see that they sculpted his abs on the suit and his back muscles, which is just another example of what great attention to detail looks like. The belt doesn't seem to want to budge or move around, and I don't really want to force it in case it's not supposed to, so I'm going to go ahead and say that it doesn't move. If anyone else has had a different experience with this, feel free to let me know in the comments below. The joints are lubricated very well. I had almost no creaking in them whatsoever. They move very nice and smooth and don't seem to be too tight nor too loose. We got the standard points of articulation from Mafex, including but not limited to sit-ups for days. The only joint issues that I have is in my right side butterfly joint. It's a little clicky when you pull back on it. It's only the one side, and it's only when you're coming backwards. I also sadly have the same issue with the legs, whether I'm going backwards or forward. This isn't normal for Mafex, and it's actually the first time that I'm having any sort of joint issue with one of these, so definitely a little disappointed there, but when I'm done filming and everything, I'll get some silicone shock oil in there, and hopefully it'll get a little bit looser. Alright, now let's move on to accessories. Here's an angry variant of his head sculpt where his brows are a little bit more present and he's squinting. Absolutely no QC issues here, by the way, and everything looks flawless with this head sculpt. The next one is more of the same flawlessness, but with a little bit more of a spiky orientation, giving him that classic Scarlet Spider look. This is easily my favorite orientation out of all the head sculpts that we received. Of course, to get his head off, we're just gonna have to yank on it until it comes off. Most Mafexes can be a little bit tight here. This one makes no exception, and it took a good amount of force to get it off of there. We got a little bend in the peg as well, which I've always just assumed was Medicom's attempt to try to make it easier to pop another head sculpt back on, which has never been the case, at least in my experience. It's always been really tough to put one back on. You definitely have to put some force behind it. Here's a close-up on the default head sculpt that comes with the figure. His eyes are a little bit more relaxed with this one, and once again, again, no issues with the paint. There was definitely a good amount of force behind getting the head sculpt back on as well. It wasn't exactly easy, but if it's anything like my other ones, it should get easier over time. Let's go ahead and move these heads to the side because I want to talk about the set of feet that we got. As I mentioned earlier, we got magnets on the bottom of the feet and it is sticking to my Allen wrench pretty good, but I want to try it out somewhere a little bit more practical and see how well these magnets hold up the weight of this figure. Of course, we need to get them on first, so I'll pop these guys off and the new ones will slide on smooth as butter. So here we are in the kitchen at the fridge. Naturally, this is where you test action figures. What else is a fridge for? So let's see how easy he goes. That's disappointing. Yeah, that's not... Come on. Come on. All right. Hell yeah. So we don't have the best sticking. I did try it off camera and using two hands, it's definitely easier to get all those points of contact on there and then he sticks pretty okay. I've just seen better before. Let's go ahead and move on to the hands now. Here's a little magic trick. Presto. Here they are. These are the hands that we're going to be working with today. Lots of beautiful sculpts to choose from here. Now, I don't want to bore you too much with this part, so I'm going to try to power through these pretty quickly. Firstly is going to be this slightly open pair. That'll be for snaking the web through his hands so that you can get some swinging action going on. Here's the magnet pair. I did forget to mention that these are needed with the magnet feet in order for the figure to stick. Without both of them, he's probably not going to stick. He's just too heavy, sadly. No Spider-Man toy is complete without a pair of thwip hands unless your name starts with Marvel and ends with Legends. These ones are awesome. We got a great sculpt on these guys. Finally, we have two pairs of open hands. One of them is slightly relaxed and the other one is all the way open. All the hands slide off and back on flawlessly. The hand swapping is one of the things that Mafex does best in my opinion. Now let's go ahead and plow through these webbing options and then I'll give you my final thoughts and we'll wrap this up. Included is a huge selection of webbing. Most of it is just duplicates of each other, but we got this kind of treble clef looking web. We got two of these straight ones with a little loop on the end. That loop will go around his wrist to make it look as if he's spraying the web. There are two of these twirly ones. They are slightly different with one webbing down and the other one webbing upward. There are two more of the straight ones with a loop on the end, but they are smaller than the first pair. They seem to be about half the size of the original ones. And finally, we have these long straight ones that have an L shape on the end for him to grab onto. Lastly, we got the same stand that we always get with Mafex, so I'm not going to go all the way into that today. Here it is set up though, in case you have not owned a Mafex before. Now, moving on to final thoughts. I really liked the figure, and I think it's easy to recommend to pretty much any fan of Ben Reilly. I mean, there's not exactly a great catalog of figures to choose from of him in my opinion, and this one easily sets the bar higher for any companies to have to compete with. I'm definitely looking forward to that Marvel Legends Scarlet Spider that we're going to be getting later on this year, and I'm interested to see how it stacks up against this one, given that Marvel Legends is willing to compete with arguably one of the most reliable and popular figure brands out there. I'm definitely bummed out about my leg scenario with this figure, but I know that it's not the norm for Mafex, so it's a little bit easier to look past in my opinion. And even if you do end up as unlucky as me, there are solutions to fix something like that. It just sucks because I paid the premium for this figure. I should get premium results. And that brings me to a whole nother topic as well. I keep getting comments asking why I care so much about paint and sculpt, and the simple answer is that when I'm paying $60 for a Mafex or something, I'm paying for that higher end quality control, higher amounts of detail, and an all around better figure. So yes, obviously I'm going to be a little bit upset when I pay $50 to $100 for a Yamaguchi and it comes out having a similar build quality to like a $20 or $30 Marvel Legends or McFarlane figure. And this figure right here is the difference. It's a great example of what a high priced figure should look and feel like, aside from the legs, but definitely not this. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end it there, fellas. What do you guys think? Are you liking the Scarlet Spider, or is there one from the past that you prefer instead? Let me know down below. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video, and as always, stay awesome.